Good afternoon, everyone. This is Gino Ciparroni. Alongside me, as always, is Sam Vukas.
Hey, everybody.
The Giant.
Oh, geez, here we go.
Yeah, well, people got to know who you are, Sam. I know we're a couple minutes early. We're going to just wait a little bit longer, give everyone a chance to dial in, and we'll get started shortly. So still just going to give everyone a couple minutes, but I wanted to just ask my friend Sam here. Sam, NADA starts this Thursday. You pumped?
I am, actually.
How many NADAs have you been to?
As a vendor or a dealer?
Both.
Oh, God. Probably 10 or 12.
10 or 12 NADAs. So you say you're a veteran of the NADA show?
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay. What are you excited about this year? What are you most looking forward to seeing?
Well, I kind of like that it's back in San Francisco. I had a great time when it was there last. I am interested to see with the shift, because digital retailing was the big buzzword the last show, and everyone was talking about it. And there's a few other products like voice search and a few things that I thought were a little bit half-baked that I kind of want to see where the industry took them over the past year.
I kind of think one of the things that has been half-baked for a while is digital retailing.
Yes.
But I think a lot of vendors have now gotten to a point where their tools a lot of them are somewhat pretty impressive, right?
Yep. No, they're getting there. That and some of the digital marketing changes, which is the topic of our conversation today.
How convenient for you to mention that.
How convenient. It's almost like it was planned.
Wow. That was all unscripted, folks. Sam did not plan to say that. But since he did, we are going to get started. So thanks again for everyone joining another edition of the famous Gino and the Giant.
Can we call it famous yet? I don't know if it's famous.
I'm going to call it famous. It's famous for me.
It's been 2. I've had Christmas parties that have gone longer.
Well, that's funny, but this is going to be famous, soon to be famous, kind of like Gina Portillo's chocolate cake, right? Anywho, my name is Gino Ciparroni, CSO here at Dealer eProcess. With me is Mr. Jokester himself, Sam Vukas. And if you missed it last Thursday, Sam, you and I discussed everything dealers really need to know about digital retailing going into NADA, right?
Yeah, we gave a checklist and kind of like the playbook of what to look for to make sure they're getting the right product for their dealership.
Yeah, there's so many ins and outs of a digital retailing tool that you really need to know a lot about what the software can and cannot do so that you don't get I'd say swindled, or you like to call it pitch slapped.
Yes.
By a vendor.
I can't coin that phrase. That was presented to me by Mike Blackmore.
Oh, the famous Mike Blackmore. I hope he's on today. But no, we talked a lot about digital retailing. We said to ourselves, as complex as digital retailing is, digital marketing can be just as complex and confusing. And so we really wanted to kind of take the same approach with digital marketing, so that as you're going to NADA and you're talking to your vendors that you're kind of interviewing, you got to make sure that you spell marketing right. That's my fault. But you also have to make sure you're picking the right vendor for your dealership. So going into this now, Sam, and just for everybody listening, if you have questions during the webinar, just type your question into the comment box of the GoToWebinar widget, and then we're going to take questions at the end.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have spell check?
I was typing fast, so let's just move on. Ignore it. So, Sam, I kind of asked myself this question, and I think I've asked you this question before, but what are some features that make digital marketing successful? I mean, what does really a solid digital marketing company need to have in its stable of products to ultimately try to create the best situation for a dealership from a marketing standpoint? And to me, it boils down to kind of these 6 key points right here. There's a million different aspects of any digital marketing campaign that you could look into to see if a vendor is or isn't doing the right job. But if they can't tackle at least these top 6 points here, they're probably not the best fit for your store, because they just wouldn't have all of the access to all the right data or technology to actually know if your campaigns are doing you any good. The first one is data providers, and this is just a quick and easy check to see if the marketing company you're interviewing is actually connected with all of the best data providers and networks that they possibly can, because we know marketing there's no silver bullet to it. It's not like just do Google and you're going to sell all the cars you need to. You need to have a good kind of mixture of networks that you're advertising on and data to use to help you target. So having the right providers can help you do that. And using those data providers, you also have to make sure that the company you're using has the right technology. Marketing, it's kind of half art, but these days it's becoming a little bit more science too. And so having somebody behind your account, an experienced AdWords marketer, is a very, very important thing. But giving them technology to help them scale your message to a lot of people very efficiently is really, really important. A lot of companies out there, Sam, actually don't have any technology that they use. They kind of lean on the one person that's managing the dealer's account to do it all by themselves.
Seems a bit overwhelming.
It is. It's a lot of moving pieces, and so having technology to back that person up, make sure that everything's correct, make sure it's all going the right way, and it's efficient. So we'll cover that. Alongside that technology, there's a rampant problem in the industry that's caused by customers doing specific searches relating to rebates and incentives. These are actually oftentimes the most highly clicked on ads when done correctly, and so you want to talk to your vendor and see how they handle those types of ads. Along the same lines too, inventory. There's so many different aspects to your inventory: new, used, CPO, cars in stock over a certain date, certain price ranges. How do you really deal with all of that? It kind of boils down to what technology you're using. And then attribution, targeting, all of that stuff that goes way beyond just like what an impression share is or what a click-through rate is, to ultimately dial into the dollars and cents that you're actually earning from your marketing dollars, so that when somebody asks you why you're spending, say, 10 grand a month on Google, you would have an answer for that more so than just, it got me, 5,000 clicks, so it must be doing well. So we're going to break this all down just like we did with digital retailing. And I want to start first, Sam, just talking about those data providers and those partnerships that any vendor really needs to have. And ultimately what it boils down to is a few different key aspects with these partnerships. So any good vendor should have a relationship with everybody here on the screen. The ones you see on top, Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, Amazon, Instagram, Waze, those are all your marketing channels from a digital perspective. Sam, I know you're a big internet guy. You use probably a handful of these when you're doing any type of different searching, right?
All the time.
Right. So you being an active buyer, and I know that you are certainly somebody who would buy a car at some point, knowing that this is where you're researching products and looking for new information, it's important for a dealership to be there. Just focusing on one or maybe two of these networks isn't usually enough to get the most kind of complete marketing strategy that you could have. The other companies on this list, like CDK and Reynolds, those are really important companies to have in kind of your stable when it comes to attribution. Because like I mentioned earlier, and we're going to talk about in a little bit, we have to get past looking at these accounts from the standpoint of how many clicks they earned you, and really dial in to see how many sales are coming from all of these different ads you have running, all the way down to the keywords that are in your account. And so by integrating with these companies who control your DMS, they're the ones that own kind of that holy grail information to make us just more certain that what we're doing is actually moving the needle for the store. And then the other companies on here, IHS, Polk, Oracle, extremely important resources when it comes to targeting. Targeting has to go way beyond, let's just plop a 30-mile radius around your store and hope for the best. We've got to dial into certain individuals' activities online. How do we capture that data? How do we use it to target these data providers, or what any company would really need to have kind of that most complete picture of targeting? So that's just a quick word on data providers. You can call them partnerships, but this list right here, make sure you run through it with any vendor you're looking at to see that they can check off all these boxes if they work with all these companies. The next is, how do you then bring that into a system that can use all of this data, and it becomes massive, massive amounts of data, to really create ad technology at scale and to really ultimately put the best ads out there and put the right ad in front of the right person at the right time. And as we were talking about this, Sam actually asked me this question. Sam, what were you asking me before?
We were talking about how software and what exactly it means for digital marketing, and kind of some of the different pieces. And I plead full ignorance on this portion. The product of the digital marketing on our side, at least, is not really controlled or ran by myself. So I know that we have reps that sit in the desks all day long, and they sit there and they stare at the accounts and they make adjustments and they do other things. So really, I kind of asked Gino, more as a joke than anything, but really kind of to find out, like, what is the software really doing other than just kind of setting up what the ads are that are getting spit out to the networks and exactly how it runs on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And when Sam asked me that question about the software, I kind of turned the question around on him, because I know Sam used to work at the dealership. You were there for how many years?
Roughly about 8.
Yeah. And when you were at the dealership pricing your cars, you used the software too, right?
Yes. Myself, I used vAuto with Jimmy when we would price used vehicles, because we would take cars in on trade, and admittedly so, we would overpay for the car to get the deal done, and then we'd be buried on the vehicle, but we'd want to see what we could at least expect to sell it for.
Right.
So we used vAuto because it sucked in all the different market data so that we wouldn't have to go out to cars.com and auto trader, which we used to do.
Mm-hmm.
We used to set a radius. We'd go, okay, where's our location? What are some of the comparable vehicles selling from the area? The same way that real estate operates. They look at the comps in the area and they want to know what it sells for. Well, then we started pricing it out of vAuto because it brings in all of that info.
So what you're saying is you took a software that, instead of you having to go through and do all that manually and find out everyone who had the same car listed and what the price was, you let a software just do that work for you, so you can go on and focus on actually selling that car, right?
Correct. I mean, I never had to go on and do it manually.
Well, no.
Other people did.
Right. Other people would have.
Yes.
Software.
Yes.
So
So
going back to digital marketing, that was kind of why we knew we had to build a software, because every aspect of an account can be blown up to such a huge proportion in terms of the data that can be brought in, the targeting that goes along with it, the ad text itself, everything that would take one person basically would be their full-time job to want to run one account for one dealership, yet you still have that aspect of human error that could go along with it. I mean, I've been in accounts myself for years, and you can really start to get a little bit punchy, I guess you'd say, when you're going through an account and just changing ad text, and mistakes can happen. So software is really a key part of this. To kind of think about it, about how software can really help, you kind of think about it in terms of these 4 different phases right here. Software can help with an onboarding process, because it baffles me when I hear dealers talk to me about their vendors, calling them up and saying, my vendor, all they did was ask me what they wanted to do, right? Mm-hmm. That's the last thing that should happen, because the vendor, especially in the digital marketing realm, needs to be the expert. So bringing data in from an onboarding standpoint and having the software to allow you to do things like market research based on a dealership's actual DMA, who's selling in their area, who's not, using that to define a strategy, bringing in the dealership's inventory. I mean, inventory drives a lot of paid search technology every month. You have to have that integrated into the system.
I could say right now, if we were looking for a different marketing agency at that time when I was at the dealership, and we did a phone call and we started to like what we saw, and some of the first questions that they asked is, oh, well, what would you like to do? What would you like to target? That's,
you probably hang up.
I'd hang up. I'm going to them. They're the expert. I don't know what I want to do. You need to tell me what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm. And that person needs also that information from you in order to make that decision. But if we have your inventory, we know where you're selling cars, we're linked to your DMS, we have your analytics, we control your Facebook page, we run it through our software, and then we link everything together to the platform and actually physically map out where you've been selling cars.
So wait, I don't have to do an export out of the DMS anymore?
You have to do no work at all.
We used to have to take an export from Reynolds & Reynolds of sold vehicles for the past 2 years, dump it into an Excel file, create a pivot table, figure out what zip codes we were targeting and spending money in to figure out if we were making the right moves or not. And this was 2009, 2010, things like that. So
seems a little tedious.
Just a bit.
Seems a little prone to error too.
Yeah.
So this is all taken care of on the click of a button. As is, at that point then, all the campaigns that you would build. So now you have the option, once the data's in the system, to go in and create a myriad different campaigns, some that are targeted on, say, dynamic inventory, pulling in your rebate data and your new inventory and all the leads and offers that we're going to talk about, and what networks you want to target, everything like that, and all your information over here that says, the radius we decided to target based on that onboarding phase, all gets handled with the click of a button. You can run new car campaigns that way, create all your ads on the fly so that the ad text is always correct, the banners are always right, and just as importantly, they're always going to the right landing page. Because Sam, as we're going to see, I'm going to show you something here. These ads are usually not going to the right landing page, and that just really kills a good ad experience for a consumer.
Where do you think I get half my ideas for the website side of things? Trust me, I click on stuff and I go, this doesn't work how it should.
So you can do that with new car campaigns. I'm not going to make you sit through all of these. Static campaigns, or what we call kind of conquest or foundational type of campaigns. Same thing with used cars. I know I'm running through this a little bit, but you kind of get the point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes a little bit more sense to have a software assist a person that then would allow them to be more of a strategist and more of a consultant rather than a taskmaster going in and just creating ads all day.
I remember having to create individualized PNG graphics for every single offer that we wanted to do and put what the target was and tell them it was $139 a month and do the whole thing. So that's all gone?
All gone. It's all taken care of right here, as is a good chunk of the optimization. Because here's what else, Sam, that we know, machines are probably smarter than us when it comes to data analysis. Would you agree?
Well, maybe not smarter than you.
Well, fine.
You claim at least. You
right.
claim.
Well, you know, I make a lot of bold claims. I'll at least concede this one. I could say IBM Watson can read more books a second than I can. But what you want to also make sure your software can do is use the data that's then generated through your accounts to drive your cost per click down, to drive your average position higher, to isolate in on the keywords that actually make you the most money. And so that's another thing that you'd want to talk to any vendor about. Ask them what kind of either AI or machine learning they have living inside their account to help the optimization piece. Because if we look here, in order to optimize at the scale that we do, I mean, there's thousands of keywords living in any given account. We optimize those daily by just looking at all the data, funneling them through a statistical model, and then testing over time, where can we make account improvements while at the same time saving money, right? So you get more bang for your buck, and the bang is actually a little bit better because you have more well-optimized ads out there. So all of that really just boils down to what kind of software is out there, what the software is designed to do, and if it can handle it the right way. But Sam, I want to go back a little bit. I talked about rebates and incentives. You know what bugs the hell out of me?
What?
When I do a search for something and neither the ads nor the landing pages that I see are actually of any relevance to me. Would you say that's annoying?
That is a bit of a problem, yeah.
Would you also say that would probably kill the results of a lot of good campaigns or well-intended campaigns?
Oh, I can imagine it definitely costs people some money because I know when I click on ads when I'm searching for other things, obviously outside of automotive, and I click on an ad and it takes me somewhere and now I'm on a page where I don't know where I have to go. Depending on the product and depending on where I went, I might spend a little bit of time trying to navigate their site to find what I'm looking for, but in most cases, I'm out.
Yeah, it's really frustrating for a consumer. And let me hit you with this too, Sam. Did you know that when an ad actually does include the numerical value of a rebate or an incentive when a customer does that type of search? So if I type in, you know, Toyota Camry lease, and I see an ad that says lease a Camry for $199 a month, I see that dollar figure in there. Those ads get clicked on 10-to-1 versus ads that do not. Did you know that?
Everyone's payment driven. They want to know what they're going to spend on a monthly basis.
Exactly. So it would make sense to make sure that those ads are always running and always correct, right?
I feel like that's common sense.
Yeah, well, you would think so, but people might not really think that way. I don't know, but because I see a lot of this not happening the way it should. So let me run you through a story. So yesterday was the football games, the big games.
AFC and
NFC championship.
Let's not talk about the Saints call.
No, I just want to, I want to say in both cases, the refs won the game.
Fair enough.
You know, in both games. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I did see one of my local dealers, I don't know where they got the money to do this, but I did see a local ad running for a Kia store near my house. And they were talking all about their Kia lease offers. And I thought it was a pretty bold strategy, but I mean, knowing that a lot of dealers probably weren't spending that kind of money, maybe it made some sense to get a little bit of, their own messaging out there when it wasn't too crowded. So
better than trying the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's one. I think any dealer would love to do that. But what I did, as any normal consumer does these days, because really TV is more like radio, I was kind of on my computer, half watching the game, half browsing around the internet, as a lot of people do these days. I know you have 4 or 5 different devices going at any given time. When I saw that Kia Optima lease offer, I went and did that search that you see right here on Google. This was last night. So I type in Kia Optima lease offer. Now, clearly, I'm showing interest in an Optima and a lease. Those are the 2 specific things in this search.
You can tell that because the way that it is.
Right. That's right. So let's look down the list and see what I actually was served for an ad. Number 1, I see the OEM right here, taking the top spot, but even they didn't put an offer in here, right? They're talking to me about the Optima. They're saying special offers near you. Remember when I mentioned that dollar figure in there? I didn't see it. I didn't see anything in there that made me want to click.
You have specified that you are looking for a lease offer of some sort. You
Right.
want to know what the national number is.
And there.
You even get that, right?
Right. Let's look at the second one down, because I ignored that first one. Second one down, this dealer's telling me they have Kia Optimas starting at $16,380.
Not telling me a monthly payment, though.
No monthly payment, no lease, anything, no specials. This isn't answering my question. The third one down I found a little bit hilarious, because now they're talking to me about 2017 Kia lease offers. Sam, this goes back to why we need technology to help us do these things.
I don't think they can lease a 2017, even if it was still on lot.
No, they probably couldn't. And this is guaranteed to be an account run by a person by hand who just forgot to go change this one ad and yet left it running. So that's no bueno. However, the other thing is that it at least is telling me about lease offers. So I've got
that's just something there.
Yeah. And then the last one here, Kia Optima, start your car search today. Just tell me where the offer is. So
you already know the car you want. It's an Optima.
Right.
Why are you starting to search?
So despite kind of this 2017 right here, I did click on this ad because to me, in my mind as a consumer, it was the closest to answering my question. So hopefully they got their act together on the website side at least and would bring me to a 2018 or 2019 Optima lease offer. We can only hope, right? No, they didn't. So they brought me to a landing page right here that was just had every Kia model on there and any offer. Now, I'm a regular consumer. I don't know what half this stuff means, right? I don't know what half the offers mean, half the rebates. There's so much legal wording on disclaimers on these pages that it's just frustrating, and I just leave and nobody answers my question. So what's funny is I tried to see if this was an isolated incident. Like I told you, I did the search last night. So I did the same search again about an hour and a half ago, and the results weren't much better. So Kia dealers, Kia's right back up there. This is that same ad that we saw before. Different ad, looking for a 2018 Optima. Different dealer, but at least they're talking to me about the right year, or kind of the right year.
Don't want to see an offer.
Right, I would rather see 19 at this point, but no offers. And then this dealer's talking about incentives. So again, what's the best choice here, right, Sam?
Yeah.
If I want an offer, to me, offers and incentives, I get that it's the same thing, but I've got 2019s right here. I know I probably want to lease a 2019. So that's going to be the ad I clicked on. Are they going to take me to an offers page? The ad would suggest that, right?
It would suggest. It says World Kia Incentives.
Yeah, well, it didn't.
Where'd it go?
It went to the home page. I don't see anything about a Kia Optima lease offer, which is exactly what I typed in.
Not even just like the overall incentives page, like what happened last night? No. So where you could at least scroll and maybe find the incentive on the model you were looking for? Maybe it got you half there? Nothing?
No, now I got to go in here and do all this work to find it, which I don't want to do. I'm not going to do that. So we got to understand this. I know I'm kind of harping on this lease and offer thing, but it's really, really starting to take off in terms of what customers are looking for and how dealers are selling cars these days. A lot of dealers in a lot of markets are very, very lease heavy. But if you can't advertise it properly, then you're not really going to get anything done. So what a good, well-designed ad system can do for you in this case is if you're using the right software and you're connected to the right data providers, the data can tell the software to run an ad when I do create a lease, or do a search for a lease like this, to create an ad that tells me what that lease offer is, to tell me about the vehicle I'm interested in, maybe throw some site links in here or something else like that, and then bring me to a page that not only has the lease offers on it, and Sam, I'm going to jump back out live and go back to that Optima, but not only should I be showing the lease offers here like we see on the page, but the inventory too. This is an exact one-stop shop for a consumer who wants to know about a 2019 Kia Optima lease. Would you say that? Would you agree?
I would.
Okay. So enough with the soapbox, but folks, if you're watching this, get your vendors to really understand the true value of having data connections and rebate offers. So we're going to jump back over here and talk about, I went too far, talk about my favorite part of all ad accounts. So really, when we talk about ads, and we just went over the rebate things, you have to have the right ad, and you got to take them to the right landing page, it still all boils down to how well any company can optimize your ads, because you can really focus in on the wrong data, like clicks and impressions and impression share, and ultimately not get the results you need. You have to be able to pull in the right results-driven data to make sure you're constantly optimizing, not just for today, but for the future. So there's a couple of different things I want to highlight here that I think any company should be able to do. And the first has to do with location targeting. Where are you actually showing these ads? So Sam, let me ask you this, back at your dealership days, when a vendor called you up and asked you a question like, where's your target market, or what zip codes do you sell in, and stuff like that, and they were supposed to be advertising for you, was that a little frustrating?
It was, because usually when we got on the phone, we weren't prepared for that question, and then we'd have to go grab somebody and either export the data right then and there, or put it on the to-do list and be like, okay, we'll get you the file from the DMS. And again, it was a manual matching process to where we were literally working on Excel to help a vendor potentially that we'd be wanting to do business with, prepare them to tell us how to market. So it's like, why even bother?
Right. Would you have been, would you have been a little bit more satisfied if they put something like this in front of you and they said to you, Sam, I see where you're selling all of your cars because I'm linked to your DMS, and this is going to tell me where to advertise?
That is one hell of a better spot to start than what we used to deal with back when I was at the dealership.
Which was basically guess.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So that's the other thing, folks, is you got to understand that markets change, markets vary. Every dealership can't just sit behind the rule of target 25 miles around your store for new vehicle advertising, and that should do the trick, because it doesn't work like that way for everybody. But if you have a company that you're working with that can dial into the exact zip code you're targeting, actually be able to look into each zip code, find out not just how many vehicles are selling, but what kind. Are they more used? Are they more leased? Are they more CPO'd? And then tailor a campaign to each specific zip code. That's going to allow you to target the right areas, but also do it way more efficiently. Because other than that, you're just spending money blindly in all these marketplaces. And Sam, if you look, what's interesting, if we just deselect that, the area around the targeting circle of the main backyard for this dealership, it's very spread out. There's a lot of areas out here where they just don't sell cars. But if I just had a larger radius, look how much dead space I'd be paying money to be in.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
No.
No. So you got to be able to do that.
We've got a couple out there, but there's not enough to start spending more out there for those few that are going to come in from a little bit ways away.
Right, right. And so not only does this help with your own historical data about telling us where you're sending cars, but you also want to be able to forecast where dealers are going to be selling cars. And this goes into those data providers too, because what certain data providers can do for you is take this same idea of kind of targeting a map and actually pull in information about consumers in a marketplace that are in the market and ready to buy a vehicle in the next month or so. So to give you an example of what that would look like, if I go in here and I select something like a Toyota Camry, data can tell us that there are 3 zip codes in this marketplace with soon-to-be Camry buyers, people who are of high propensity shopping for a Camry. And they have all these data and all their own models to tell us that. But Sam, would you say that makes a little bit more sense when you're talking about maybe a 30 or 60-day marketing plan to just target those areas with those models where we know people are going to buy?
It seems about as basic as just casting a net where you know there's going to be fish.
Mm-hmm. Would you rather go about optimizing an account this way, or looking at what your click-through rate is on your dealer name?
I mean, it's going to change, clearly. This is the way we need to be focusing. I don't really think click-through rates and how many pages somebody visited and time on site really means anything much to me if I was a dealer in this day and age, against what you could show me where you're showing me sold vehicles and where I can cast the net to them target for a specific amount of time.
Exactly. And so it all boils down to attribution from the DMS, from solid, real data tied to your website, tied to your digital marketing. And it just goes back to what I keep saying, Sam, no one cares. Nobody cares. I care how many cars you
Wait, this isn't a good metric anymore?
No, no. Because 1,000 clicks and no sales, that's a bad metric.
Yeah, you're clearly targeting the wrong people.
Mm-hmm. So you've got to be with a vendor that can point all of that out in a kind of clear as day way, right? And I know we're kind of running short on time here a little bit. I wanted to keep it within half an hour to keep respectful of everyone's time, but just kind of walk through this real quick. If you're telling me, Sam, that you have a budget of 10 grand a month, let's just say, for example, the next question I would ask you, who is me, I would ask you, how'd you come up with that number? It's what you spent last month?
Yeah, it's what we spent last month.
Last vendor told you to do?
Yeah, it's what historically we've just moved the needle little by little every single year.
Maybe you want to keep your website traffic up?
It's almost an arbitrary number that I'm just used to, that somebody at one point may have told me, like, hey, this is what you need to spend in this area. I probably heard it from a vendor at some point.
Yeah.
I just rolled with it.
But was the question ever answered by somebody saying it's because you made more than $10,000 in sales by advertising on that one network, so you had a positive ROI?
Not that I ever recall, but that would be probably what I'd like to hear if I had a dealership nowadays.
It would just make a lot more sense, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we're looking at right here. So through DMS attribution, we can actually tie campaigns to vehicle sales. No more guesswork. So now I know if we're spending X amount of dollars on, say, Google or Facebook or Bing every month, or even on your third parties like Trader or Cars.com, because you can advertise on a lot of different networks. If you know what's making you money and you know what's losing you money, you would know where to spend your dollars and where not to, right?
Correct. And it would also tell me where my top end was. That was one thing that we always had a problem with. When we went to crazy dealer mode and we wanted to try to buy the month and it's the holiday and push, we would spend 10, 12, 14, 16 and just keep moving that needle. Mm-hmm. And we never were able to monetize the amount of lost money that we just threw out the window that we don't know if it ever brought us a return. So to be able to see the top end, I think, is more than anything.
Yeah. So you bring in that top end, like you said, you bring in data over time to see how you've been trending, because as you go up and up and up, kind of your top end point in spend, as you increase, there's going to be a decreasing marginal return. So you don't want to see where sales drop off and profit drop off. So you got to have all of that broken out here. And I also like thinking about what's going on physically in your store. How much inventory is in stock? You know, if you're at a high point of inventory, you probably want to jack up your budget a little bit to make up for that. Right?
We used to move used cars, used to actually help our new cars move very well. And for all the dealers listening in, obviously that sounds like day one kind of stuff, but I mean, it's the truth. When you're in that kind of market where you're going to have people that are get brought in by that loss leader, or you have a good used car selection and then they're looking at what they can afford while they're in the showroom and you're able to sell them a new car because the lease is better. Mm-hmm. We always knew we had to keep our used cars above a certain amount, but again, manual process. We weren't watching it. We weren't overlaying it with any of this data to actually prove our theory. We just knew that we had to keep more than 50 cars on.
You probably knew you had to keep more than 50 cars on, and you had to have a certain number of salespeople on the floor at any given time if you were going to sell the most cars possible, right?
100%.
Yeah. So if your marketing provider knew that as well, would it probably create a better, more cohesive relationship?
I feel like they'd know more about my business than just asking me a bunch of questions that I already know or have to provide them data for.
Yeah.
Again, I'm paying them for a service. I'm not paying them for them to agree with what I'm suggesting. I'm paying them to be my marketer.
And if they could tell you which keywords sell you cars and which ones don't, would that help out?
I'd care more about that than clicks.
Yeah, I would say so. So that's kind of the idea, folks. Having it all tied together, having that kind of holy grail of there's your keyword, there's your sale tied to that keyword, all helped through technology, yet still being managed by an expert behind all of that technology to make sure that everything is done properly and creates the right strategy for your store is really what it boils down to. So that's kind of the broad strokes that we wanted to cover here. We're going to turn it over to see at this point if anybody has any questions for us.
I have a question. Can you fix the spelling of marketing on your second slide?
Before I send it out to anybody, especially you, Sam, I will fix that. There is another question in here. It says, my vendor tells me that we should be focusing on market share. I'm sorry, impression share. I read market share as impression share because I can't see right now. My vendor told me we should be looking at impression share as a metric of if we're owning our market. Is that true? I have a kind of a loaded answer to that question.
I feel like it's a factor. It's a factor.
It's a factor, but here.
Not the main focus.
Here's what you want to think about. What does impression share mean? Let's start there. Do you know what impression share means, Sam?
It's the amount of times your ad is seen by someone searching relative keywords.
Kind of. It's the amount of time that your ad is shown for the searches that you're qualified to show for.
Yeah, that was the missing part. Qualified to show for.
So for easy numbers, if you're a Ford dealership and there were 100 searches for the term Ford dealership near me, and you showed up for 60 of those searches, your impression share would be 60%. Okay?
Easy math.
Easy math. But here's the thing. When you look at impression share, you have to look at it kind of in a greater context. Let's say, Sam, you're a Nissan dealer now, and you have a used car inventory of 70 cars, 50 of them are Nissans, 20 of them are all different brands. Doesn't matter what the mixture is. Would you care that your impression share for non-used Nissans is 10%, and let's say your marketplace is Chicago? Would that kind of tick you off? If you were looking at the results and you say, I'm supposed to have a high impression share, but my used inventory is only showing 10% of the time.
For non-Nissan vehicles?
Yes.
Again, I would think a little bit of the onus would be on me if I don't have enough in stock. But yeah, it would tick me off a little bit. I'd want to own that section a little bit more.
Here's the other point to that. You really can't in that situation. Getting above, say, 30% in a market that's as heavily crowded as this would take way too much money. The problem is, in looking at impression share in your account, that 10% number is going to drive that overall figure way down. So if you're looking at your account and you're seeing an overall impression share of 40%, and that's just not working for you, look at it a little bit more individually, which I think gets overlooked a lot. What's causing that 40%? Is it that used car inventory or is it not? Plus, let's also look at the flip side of that. Let's say you have 50 Camaros in stock, and there are 10,000 searches with the word Camaro in it. What we also have to consider is that cars like that have a lot of enthusiast search activity that doesn't really mean car shoppers. So when you focus on getting 100% impression share on a term like that, that's throwing money away.
Well, I don't think he's asking for 100%, but the question was, should we heavily focus on our market share as far as it relates to impressions?
The short story is it's a factor, but never look at data in a vacuum. Just because your impression share is low, but your ROI, if you're doing sales matching, is very high on that campaign, then I would say that's a campaign that can survive with a low impression share.
Yeah, because if you're trying to inflate your impressions just to own your market area, like Gino said, you're going to be throwing money away.
Yeah.
You're going to be spending needless amounts of money. You need to make sure that your impressions are coming up at the right time with the correct landing pages, unlike some of the examples that we saw, which is then going to help selling of the vehicles.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like that's it for questions. I want to thank everybody for jumping on. Sam, as always, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. We will see everybody at NADA.
I was going to say that.
That's your outro.
Yeah. Thanks again. Yeah, we'll see you all at NADA. If not, just stay tuned for the next webinar. We're going to be keep doing these on a lot of different topics. Sam, what do you think we should do next? Let's do an Ask Sam. What's your next favorite topic to talk about?
Next favorite topic. I think we should center it around a website, navigation, and organization. Basically, the UX of your website, of what you're trying to sell.
And why is that important?
It's very important. It is a very, very, very researched topic that everybody from Netflix to Dick's Sporting Goods to Walmart research constantly to understand how to correctly be in front of their customers. And I feel like this industry has traditionally just thrown as many buttons as they can and think that that's the correct way to put kind of call to actions in front of customers. And that's not correct.
We're going to have to talk about it. All right. Thanks again, everybody. We look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. Take care.